Why, hello. Welcome to our brand new podcast, Justaposition. Justaposition is a play on words of juxtaposition, where a juxtaposition is showing contrast by placing concepts side by side. For our podcast, Justaposition, hosted by yours truly, Janine, we are going to delve deep into several topics and offer new perspectives, lessons, and insights. We want to question existing structures and attempt to unravel them to foster and promote happiness and peace. Sorry, I wrote this down a while back and I wanted to make sure I delivered it the best way I could, so yeah, I'm so excited. I finished my finals. I'm not sure how I did, but that is in the past. And speaking of the past, it's almost 2020 or 2021. And before the year ends, I wanted to make this podcast talking about everything about streaming. So delving into my experience, why I quit, and just being brutally honest about all the different things that I've learned and witnessed from my point of view. And I'll be categorizing everything. So if you are interested in a specific part, you could check the timestamps below. I'll talk a little bit about follow for follow, really big Twitch communities, streamer Twitter, codependency. There's so many things about streaming, and I don't really want my content to focus too much about it anymore, especially considering I quit it. So this is what we're going to be doing. And I welcome you to our new podcast, and thanks for listening. I'm super excited. I may stumble a little bit because I generally get nervous. I also have a little notepad on the side, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see me kind of like refer to that. I have my tea and we're gonna get started. I'm excited. I just hope that by sharing my experience for anyone who's either struggling with streaming, who's been a quote-unquote small streamer for a really long time, and by small I mean under like 15 to 10 viewers average. I think streaming is such a unique thing that once you experience it, there's just so much to learn. And now that I am out of it, it's kind of easy to see some things more clearly. So without further ado, let us get started. I've talked about my journey many times before, but I want to start with sharing my story just to kind of reiterate. I started streaming when I was, how old was I? It was about 4 years ago. I'm 26 now. So when I turned 22, my partner told me about this site called Twitch and how people were, going live playing games and commentating, replying to chat. It seemed like something that I could easily do, and I tried it and I genuinely enjoyed it. People were coming back and it was super exciting. To avoid being redundant, I'll try to keep this part of my story really short, but essentially I was streaming League of Legends because that's one of my favorite games. Oh no. I mean, they're popular games for a reason. I had a lot of fun with it, and at some point I was on YouTube and I found some videos talking about how to improve your stream, and I kind of went into a rabbit hole and just kept searching and was thinking, you know what, maybe I want to try to grow my stream. Maybe I do want more viewers. Maybe I do want to be like a pro. I don't know. In general, I wanted to be better. I wanted to keep working on that. So I learned about stream coaches. I learned different tricks and things to do, such as stop streaming saturated games. Think of your brand. What are you trying to communicate? I feel like that was the beginning to a very weird but beautiful growth journey. Because when I look back, I used to be mad about how once I started learning about branding and stuff, I could no longer just have fun streaming. And I think there's still some merit to that. However, it also kind of taught me a lot about marketing and advertising and propelled my passion for not only storytelling, but just being ethical and being mindful of how we present ourselves online and interact with people, just because I think it's easy for it to be really toxic. So that was basically how it started. I took a lot of the advice I saw from the videos. I decided, because I was inspired by Pokimane, or Emmmsie, and she used to do a segment called Dr. Pokey. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Where basically she would talk to viewers and give them advice, if you will. And I knew, being passionate about mental health and going through being bullied and different things, I knew that not only do I want to help people, but, I thought it was a cool way to engage with my community. And I haven't seen too many people do streams about mental health, so I was like, huh. So I got some coaching sessions from Ashley, and it was really great and helpful, kind of. I was still kind of mad, which I talk about it in another video, in a shortened video, not like a long-ass podcast, but I talked with her about different things we could try, and at the time I was playing Minecraft, and I was like, oh, this could be fun, so Minecraft and mental health maybe, and I found a lot of success in the mental health streams where I would not only talk about a certain topic, but I would listen to people. That was the most stupid thing ever. I'm sorry. This is an explicit podcast. No, I can't help it. But no, because I used to allow people to go in voice calls with me to like talk to them. But some people were trolling me so hard and being like absolute dicks, and I was being a doormat. So yeah, never again. Be warned if you ever do anything like inviting voice. I don't know. I had really bad experiences. It might have been because it was under the mental health tag or whatnot, but anyway. But I did notice that the more I did those mental health streams, not just verbally talking to people, but just talking and responding, it did pick up a lot of traction, more so compared to my regular like League streams or whatnot, or Minecraft streams. I tried a bunch of stuff, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with like Twitch Strike. That's a website where they tell you the best game to stream depending on the time of day and how many viewers are held in the top like 5% of streamers. So usually you'd want to stream to a category that is like more spread out with viewers. Anyway, I remember I tried slots and I tried so many different things. But it's easy to kind of go down this like giant pit of streaming things that you think other people would want versus what you would want. And for me, I think my personality is very much so like a people pleaser. I really don't like conflict. I don't like people not liking me. I don't know. I think in general, just acceptance is really cool. I think streaming was really toxic for me in that it kind of kept feeding those insecurities. And especially when you're a quote unquote smaller streamer. And when I use smaller, I only mean in like average viewer size, because I was streaming for about 4 years, and literally the highest average I hit, this is plus or minus with inconsistencies, trying different things, failing, etc. But the highest average number I hit was about 12, 13, 15, like the highest. And it's really strange because when I first started, I actually got rated by a really, really big streamer who I didn't know at the time. Her name is lilchiipmunk, or her name is Caroline, but her username is lilchiipmunk. And it was really bizarre. I was playing League, and then all of a sudden there were like thousands of people in chat. And they're like, oh, it's a lilchiipmunk grade, or do you know her? I'm like, no. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about branding, so to speak. I was just kind of like doing my thing. It was pretty overwhelming, but cool. I didn't want to end stream because I was like, oh my god, all these people are here, cool. It's funny too because literally like a year later, I came back to our chat and was like, hi. I really wasn't thinking about marketing or capitalizing certain events, etc. at the time, so I was just like, thanks again. And I had to do more research on her because I never watched her, and I was like, oh, a lot of people are shitting on her for no reason. I mean, there's reasons, but I don't think they're justifiable. It's just like, hey, you're pretty cool. Like, thanks again. I don't know. I feel like an awkward duckling. Anyway, that was my first big raid, and throughout my Twitch career, I received a lot of raids as well. And because after that, I was even more propelled to grow. And like I said, I did the mental health streams, and then I got burned out, and then I took a break. And then I got burned out, and I tried some other things, and then I got burned out. I changed my username. I got burned out. And it's funny to think how all of that, literally the past 4 years, it's been such a roller coaster. And I'm really grateful to have stopped, because I feel that streaming is sometimes toxic, and not only just like a ratio of like time versus efficiency factor. And when I say that, I mean that in general, a lot of stream gurus, stream coach people tell you to diversify and to invest time in other content than Twitch, because Twitch is pretty fleeting. So if you make YouTube stuff, you have a better chance of like growing an audience there and then bringing them to Twitch versus just streaming on Twitch. And I think that's the big mistake that I made personally. I like put all my eggs in the Twitch basket. It's interesting though, because when Mixer came along, there's other sites too, but I feel like Mixer was the other big main competitor. I guess Facebook now is, but it kind of gave like a little bit of a safety net. I remember trying streaming there too. I thought that it would give me more immediate success, especially because there were less people. But there were less people, and I had roughly the same or even less people on there in terms of viewers. There's a lot of notions that were, for example, if you're a girl, if you're attractive, if you have big breasts, if you, I don't know, something, then you're automatically gonna succeed on Twitch. And I remember kind of believing that at some point, because I'm like, I think I checked some of those boxes. So I'm like, all right. I remember one time, I never was mad at people. I don't feel mad that people are quote unquote stealing my viewers, because firstly, there's an audience for everyone, and if people are interested in watching people with big breasts, then they're gonna watch that, probably not you, because that's what they want to watch. But anyway, I remember thinking that, okay, maybe if I wear a shirt that's like a little bit lower cut, maybe that will give me some success. I don't know. And there were some days where I was like, okay, you know what, maybe I'll try it. I didn't really see too much of a difference, to be honest. I think that it's just a whole bunch of bullshit. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty conservative in a way, like not too much, but conservative in how I dress. Somewhat sometimes. That's just me. So it's weird too, because there's kind of like a, not a glorification, but just a weird stigma for either like showing too much or not showing enough, or like you get praised if you're not showing stuff because it's like, oh, you're not like the other girls. But I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's like something that doesn't really end with the streaming community. It's just the never-ending debate where either people think that women are being too promiscuous and they're using their assets or what, you know, they were given from their parents and using it to capitalize on the world, and gosh, they're just ruining everything. I'm just kidding. They're not. That's complete sarcasm. It's just, oh my gosh. It's like the whole pineapple on pizza debacle. It's like, does it belong there? Does it not? I mean, in the end, similar to pizza, it all comes down to taste, right? Like, what do you want to watch? Do you want to watch people with huge breasts? Then go for it. If not, then I mean, there is a thing about the Twitch terms of service, which sad to say, it's kind of a joke in the streaming community in a way, because I've seen that they don't always hold themselves to what their terms of service is, and what by they I mean Twitch. And it's really sad in the sense, because, you know, obviously there's a lot of shitty people and shitty things, but then also it's just strange, like people, there's obvious favoritism sometimes where like bigger streamers don't get penalized as much as streamers with lower view counts. Why? I can only assume because of money, maybe time, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a whole mess. It's just, there's a lot of things about that. Again, with the idea of like showing your breasts, or like the idea of Twitch thots, quote unquote. I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be people who want to showcase their body, and that doesn't necessarily mean someone's promiscuous. Maybe they have big breasts and they can't hide it. Maybe that's something they want to do, and I don't know. In the end, it doesn't really matter. And I think, especially on Twitter, oh god, Twitter, I have so many mixed feelings about Twitter. People just are really vocal about what they don't like and what they do like. But I don't know, when it comes to streamer Twitter, for example, when I say streamer Twitter, it's a little bit different than just complaining about women or people with breasts stealing your viewers and just people being mad at Twitch. It's like something happens in the streaming community and everyone comments on it. Like literally everyone. And if you don't comment on it, it might be shown that you either don't care or you are not wanting to be involved in the drama or not up to date. But it's kind of a trend where just a lot of people jump on this wagon of kind of giving their 2 cents. To me, I don't know. I mean, I see the merit of it, because if something bad happens, then yeah, you do want to, like, I don't know, comment on it so you can spread some knowledge. But I think for the most part, people tend to comment on those for clout. Like, it doesn't seem super genuine all the time. And I know I can speak for myself only, right? Like, I mean, I can speak from what I've seen and what it seems like. And I know for me, when I was trying to grow as a streamer, there was a lot of pressure to just comment on whatever was happening, to try to make it clever or just angry enough so that people would engage. And it's kind of shitty if you think about it. It's kind of like a tabloid. It's like, oh, did you hear that? Oh my gosh, I would never do that. Or like, shame on them. Like, why do they deserve a platform? Sometimes I will say that it is justified, because if something is super shitty and super bad, like, yes, call them out, right? Like, there's absolutely merit to that. However, I feel like a lot of social media is noise, and especially with streamer Twitter, it's just people adding like more fuel to the fire. And sometimes if a person apologizes, or if, you know, it was an accident, etc., and granted, we'll never know the full story, it becomes basically harassment and cyberbullying, and it's just, I don't know, it's just awful. Streamer Twitter is very strange. I don't know. I know, looking back, it's definitely something that added a lot of stress, because for one, you do want to comment on things, but I remember one time I made a comment, and after time passed, I realized that it was just, I was more fueled by like the heat of the moment. It's kind of like a mob mentality in a way. Not as like bad as like an actual mob kind. Well, actually it can be. But like everyone's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm so mad. This person, oh my gosh, they should go rot in hell. And then you're like, yeah, they do. And then a month later, the person in question is super sorry. They've done what they could. Then you're like, oh, why did I spend that time on Twitter sharing the ounces of hate? It's because it was trending. And then people also tweet ironically about the irony of streamer Twitter. No, not the irony, but they just tweet that they're upset about it. Like, oh, look at them complaining again. Stop it. I am so much better than all of you. I'm sorry. That's kind of mean, but like it's kind of like the aura I get. It's like, if you don't care about streamer Twitter, why are you talking about it? And to me, that's like along the same lines of people kind of commenting on followers. Oh, I might lose a few followers for this, or haha, I lost a few followers because of this. I don't know. I mean, it's not bad to watch your follower count and to be mindful, because in streamer world and content creation world, numbers are something to celebrate. In general, they kind of are, right? Like, the more followers you get, the more subscribers, the more likes, the more whatever. It's great in a way, somewhat. So I understand that, but it's just kind of strange, because there's this weird balance of caring about followers for the sake maybe of growth and, you know, some happiness, I guess, because they kind of correlate, right, to success. The point I was trying to make was that, you know, we look to that number for guidance on how we're doing. Like, oh, are people receiving what I'm putting out there? Do they like me? Am I doing good enough? Am I succeeding? Am I doing well? I don't think numbers always tell the entire picture. And then when it comes to streamer Twitter and like trends and everything, that's something I've just really disliked. It's very tiring. And even with YouTube, like, there are numbers. Obviously, you could choose to look at it or choose to not. And I think when I started trying to do streaming for the sake of growing versus just having fun, and versus it being just a hobby, because I genuinely thought it could be my career. Like, I thought this was it, like my quote-unquote dream job. Like, I think I could make it. I could be the next Pokimane. I mean, maybe I could have. I think that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of luck. I don't know. I believe that we're meant to go into what we are supposed to, you know? I think for a long time, I was really forcing myself to fit into this mold that just isn't for me. Because I thought after the many years of streaming, because I did take a lot of breaks and I was not super consistent all the time. I did try to be more consistent with the mental health stuff for a few months. For that, I am very proud of, and I think I tried. But even then, with gaming and stuff, you have to market yourself. Like, it's a really, really, really big marketing game. And that's the thing I hate. With whatever company I probably will work at later, there's validity to marketing, especially in promoting a product or a service that you care about. And one can argue that when you stream, you're promoting a space that's like usually welcoming, loving, fun, and you get to meet other people. I think that's cool and all, but then it's kind of sad because there's a lot of cool people in the world, but then some of us are shitty marketers, and then what do you do with that? It's difficult to navigate, and if you don't know who your audience is, what your brand is, and all that, it can be very confusing. And I think for me, because I started with content creation with blogging, so I was kind of aware of what branding is, but I didn't know the extent of what marketing is. And when I learned about it, I was pretty pissed to be honest, because I don't know, I think a lot of marketing is very manipulative, especially if it's not done super honestly or ethically, in my opinion. And I think the same falls with streaming. It's kind of similar to the parasocial problem of live streaming. It's a video I watched by Link. It talks about how sometimes as a viewer, when you watch a streamer, you feel like this artificial strong connection to a person. It's a very weird phenomena because on one hand, you are close because you're spending a lot of time together, you're supporting the streamer, and you think they're really cool, you're getting to know them, like you have a window into their life. Wow. But of course, from the streaming point of view, it's like you're a username with words. I can feel an energy. Until I see a picture, I'm like, oh, okay, this is this person. But then until I hear your voice, it's a whole nother experience. And this is where I feel like streaming and streamers, myself probably included before, could be very manipulative because, I don't know, streaming in general is just a very interesting thing where I turn on my camera and my OBS or whatever, I hit go live, and I want more people to come. I want to meet more people in the hopes of growing a larger average viewer base, more subs, more tips, more whatever, succeeding in the streaming world. So on one hand, I really like getting to know different people. I think it's super interesting. I like creating memories with others, and generally having new people in our community was joyous. It was like another person who somewhat jived with me and wanted to get to know me, and vice versa. And I think that part is beautiful. But the part where I feel like it's more manipulative is when some streamers tend to call their community like family, and I think there are exceptions. There are some viewers and streamers who either actually do develop a real relationship or transcends beyond the typical I'm reading your name and your username on a chat. Like sometimes it does evolve, but I think for the majority, I think it's problematic that we call our viewers family, or we say I love you to people who are basically strangers. Not only because I don't think it's authentic all the time, but because I think it's really toxic, because it can kind of perpetuate the idea that these relationships are real in the sense that they are like a real life friendship, and they function differently. It's just, for one, sometimes a person may be going through a lot and not have a lot of connections, and there could kind of be an over-dependence on the streamer or the viewer, vice versa. And then also just boundaries are things that I feel like get crossed a lot, especially if I don't lay them down. As a streamer, you're so vulnerable. You're literally putting yourself out there. People are coming to your space. You value almost anyone who's in your space, unless they're being like an absolute dick. And you're just, it's like you're at the mercy of your viewer. It's like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for being here. Please keep watching me. I will like shower you with love and compliments. Just stay. it just feels like a constant like begging, like, please stay. I'm lonely. Okay, for one though, that is kind of how I felt personally. I'm blessed that most of my streams were not lonely, but there were often like quiet chats, people lurk, I get it, it's not bad. I feel like as a streamer, especially when you're starting or just self-conscious of chat, because that's basically what we're supposed to be glued on, right? We have our game, but then we also have the people that we're serving. I think that there's a lot of codependency in streaming, in the viewer relationship with the streamer and vice versa. And I don't know if it's the healthiest, because on one hand, it's very superficial. Like you can talk about a lot of things, but ultimately, unless it's like a two-way relationship, or I don't know, there's more methods for both parties to get to know each other. I think it just promotes a very shallow relationship. It's like, oh, how's your day? Oh, it's good. I'm sorry. I mean, it's hard to say this because a lot of my peers who are streamers, I think, are phenomenal people. They're so empathetic and so kind, and there is a lot of value and greatness that comes from them streaming and them empathizing and putting themselves out there. I just wanted to touch on the other side. This is why our new podcast is called Justaposition, because for one, I'm not only sharing my position, but I literally like looking at the two different sides, because, you know, streaming isn't all sunshines and rainbows. There's a lot of dark sides to it, in my opinion. If you are streaming, or if you're considering quitting, or just anything, it's important to be aware of everything so that you can make the best decision or try to do it as healthily as possible, as I know I didn't. Yeah, I feel like if I was more equipped and knew more about like all the nuances of streaming, I would have maybe succeeded or known it's not for me. That's the thing too, because there's a lot of people in the world, and especially on Twitch, there's a lot of toxic viewers. There's trolls everywhere, but especially if you like make sure that your space is safe and inclusive, accessible. Some people are just assholes, and it's weird too, because when you look at giant streamers, and when I say giant, I mean like 5,000 plus, when you look at their chats, oh my god, it gives me such a headache to even think about it. Like, I remember watching them live sometimes, and I look at their stream and I'm watching it. It's cool and all, but for one, a lot of big streamers barely interact with chat. And I'm sorry if I became louder, but it irks me, because I'm like, what's the point of streaming? But they're at such a different level, they literally can't respond to all of chat. It's just physically impossible. Anyway, I see a lot of toxicity when I see those big streamer chats. It's just a lot of spam or a lot of like awful words, and oh. Now on the other side, when you're a smaller streamer like I was, or am, I don't know. I don't do it anymore. So anyway, again, my average was like literally 5 to 10 viewers for 4 years, plus or minus, but it generally ranged from that. They would be fleeting depending on what I was playing, but it would mostly be fleeting. It's just sometimes I feel like it stings more, because when you're a smaller streamer, you literally are glued to chat, and anyone who comes and goes, it kind of leaves a mark. It leaves a little footprint in your heart, and it hurts sometimes when your regulars don't come by, and it makes sense, but you know, it just kind of stings. But it also stings when people are like mean, because if you don't get a lot of comments or chat messages throughout the day and you get one that's just awful, it hurts. It really, really hurts. There's not much else to say about toxic viewers, but it's just something I knew to kind of expect, but I didn't know how much it would hurt. And this kind of goes into the other topic I wanted to talk about, which was being overweight in streaming. Because for me, I lost about 30 pounds so far, plus or minus, because I don't know, stress. But I was streaming when I was plus 30 pounds from where I'm at now. Comments about my weight really got to me. Like, it was really hurtful because it was something I was struggling with, and it's very difficult. I remember too, like, I'd put on my makeup and try to contour as best as I can so I could somehow feel better about myself. And in a way, streaming kind of gave me like a little bit of a serotonin boost, because people would be kind to me and whatnot. It also, I think, masked other issues I had to deal with. I was still in therapy, which really helped, but then it became really toxic for me, not only because of like the comments I'd get sometimes, which are very few, but obviously, you know, it doesn't take a large quantity to hurt you. Another thing I found that was toxic about streaming was just the codependency factor. I mentioned this earlier, but more so when there are toxic viewers and people in your community who are super kind and mean well, but maybe they're going through a lot, they don't have a lot of people to vent to, so they like dump all their emotional shit on you. And I don't mean to say shit as in it's like bad because, you know, I think it's valid, but their feelings are valid. I mean, it's also flattering too because they trust you and that they want to like share stuff with you because they're feeling down. But it was really overwhelming, especially when I started doing mental health stuff. People would like, oh my God, they would DM me so many things, all their feelings and anxieties. And I was still dealing with a lot of my own. So it made it doubly hard. And it just kind of sapped the joy from streaming slowly. Because, I mean, a big part of streaming is just community management. You want to foster the community, you want them to thrive, you play games together, you have game nights. Speaking of, my goodness, there's some games, I swear, like Minecraft, for one, I think the audience is younger, but either way, I ran a server at one point and some fuckers, some fucking shits decided to like plant a little virus thing in one of the assets and spam a bunch of stuff. Oh my God, just another forewarning. I mean, I didn't know too much about coding stuff. I had help from some friends and my partner and a lot of toxicity with that. Pretty awful. And then also Jackbox too. Oh my gosh. I tried to keep it mostly PG-13. It's very difficult. People are just shitheads, especially with like a game where you could input stuff. I don't know. I always felt on edge, so I'm really happy to not do that anymore. Just the anxiety of anticipating something. It's literally like a masochism. Oh goodness. You know, where like you're enjoying the pain. It's kind of like putting yourself back into that situation. Every stream is like a box of chocolates and some of them had poison in them. I don't know. You didn't know what you were gonna get, and it was just always a mixed experience. Going back to the whole codependency and emotional dumping, unless you make clear boundaries, even with your streams, if you play Minecraft or Jackbox, it gets to you. It's so hard. It was so hard for me. It got to me. Man, I didn't know how to stop people and be like, hey, I can't handle this. I'm dealing with my own shit. I am sorry. I hope you get better. But even the act of saying that multiple times is so tiring. That's the one thing I hate. So what I did was I turned off my DMs and I would very clearly say like, yo, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. That's not what our space is. I mean, maybe you're equipped to handle those things. I definitely was not. Especially if you're still struggling with other things too. It's really easy for it to all feel like a giant burden. Yeah, that's something I don't ever want to do again at all, which is something I preach about YouTube. Like, I kind of miss the live cool moments that can be created, but I'm just learning that it's not for me. And that's kind of like one of the things I wanted to talk about too, how I quit. Because for me, it wasn't an easy decision. I had to like stop putting pressure on myself to do certain things and allow myself to just stop. Not cold turkey, but to slowly stop. So I remember the first thing I did was I tried to stop doing something I don't really want to do. So just streaming about one thing for the sake of niching down and building an audience and all that. I don't know. I really wanted to just feel like I was enough. I wanted to feel worthy of just being watched playing games like all the other people are, apparently. And I'm not. I mean, I know a lot of people struggle with this too, but I just didn't understand why. Why is it so quiet? Like, why am I wasting my time? Why am I doing this? As I got busier with grad school, and I'm still doing that, thank God. I'm also still trying to like balance my time with other stuff, but my lack of time made me realize that I don't want to waste hours streaming to like 3 people. I mean, it was nice and sometimes it was cool, but I just didn't think that was the best use of my time. And then I'd always feel shitty after. Because honestly, to grow a stream is constant marketing. It's constant buildup of your community and fostering that. And it's not wrong or bad. Some people do it way easily than others. For one, I'm really empathetic, so it's very difficult to just like completely shield myself from everyone's feelings. And then 2, I'm really sensitive, and I'm still working on my own self-esteem, so it's very difficult to just be like, hey, I'm here, come watch me, haha, let's have a good time. And in general, I like to talk about deep things too, so there's audiences for everyone, but the marketing thing is something I learned that is crucial. And it's so difficult to be live all the time. The moment I allowed myself to fully just stop doing certain things, like for example, stop posting 3 times a day on Twitter for the sake of growing, stop putting Instagram stories up, stop streaming consistently on like a schedule, is how I slowly freed myself of the shackles that was Twitch streaming and live streaming and trying to be a streamer and all that. And I know that's pretty strong language, but it truthfully felt that way. I think there was so many positives, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but just stopping is very difficult. Quitting is difficult. And I think quitting gets such a negative rep, but sometimes there are things that we do that may not be for us, or maybe you're also in a different position in your life and you have to think about other stuff. And streaming is a bit of a privilege. I mean, streaming is a privilege, firstly, because, we have good internet, good equipment, etc. Right? So streaming is a blessing in itself, but I think there's also a lot of caveats to it, and just need to be mindful of that. Just allowing myself to stop and just to feel enough and to feel validated by myself and not constantly seek that affirmation from social media or from people on a stream telling me how entertaining I am, I think really helped. I know every time I went back to streaming after my break, I'd feel so rejuvenated. I'd feel like on top of the world. I generally have a good time talking to people and streaming, catching up, but something about that consistency. I mean, I know consistency is key for a lot of things. Sometimes when it comes to streaming, though, the idea of being on all the time is very difficult because, one, it's not natural, and two, it's just different. And I feel like when you're smaller and you're still trying to grow past 15, 30, 100, 200 viewers, there's a lot of pressure to always be on top of posting everything on social media so you stay relevant, to just having the best stream and making everyone feel so valued and loved. I mean, of course, you always want to aim for that in general because, I think being kind is cool. But then at the same time, it's a very unrealistic and unsustainable pattern to create. I almost feel like there's a giant pressure when you're smaller or just starting to be good and to have a good stream, to be your best, versus when people who already quote unquote made it. I mean, they also have pressure too, but I feel like they can just chill a little more because they already have that fame. So that's how I quit. It just didn't bring me as much happiness anymore. And like I said, I realized there was some toxic patterns of myself where I'd constantly compare myself to other streamers or other people. I would keep looking around for validation. Literally felt like a little Pavlov bell experiment. Every time I saw the notification bell on Twitter, it'd be like, oh, joy. I mean, anyway, and also I would look at who's following me and feel validated. People who are bigger than me were following me. I mean, again, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I think I did that too much. I was too happy about that and too sad when people unfollowed me as well. I was so grateful that, other people recognized me and were like, oh, hey, I'm a streamer here too. You know my name? Oh, I know yours. It just feels like a giant popularity contest. I mean, I think that's with most of the internet. You hope enough people like you so that you get a following and people will listen and appreciate, fund your livelihood, etc. Which is why I'm really glad we're doing this for us right now. I'm doing this for me and we'll see where it goes. But to always have that looming expectation of just leaving with more friends than you originally had when you started talking about streaming and hoping to get more people, to getting a lot of engagement in your tweets, and this is really tiring. I also watched a documentary called The Social Dilemma, so that was pretty neat and informative. It kind of opened my eyes about just how social media can be very manipulative and how my feelings are not inherently for myself. Some of them are and most of them are, but it was kind of reassuring. Highly recommend anyone to watch that. It's on Netflix, I believe. That's basically why I quit. I just kind of allowed myself to, and I tried to question what makes me happy. Is this making me happy? Do I enjoy streaming? And the less that I did it and the less I put that pressure on myself, the more free I felt. Because that's where I was talking about streaming feeling like a shackle. So I didn't feel like I could quit, because part of the codependent problem of streaming is you build a very close connection to your community. And it's beautiful, but sometimes there's a lot of guilt that comes from that. You feel bad not streaming, you feel bad not being there for them, you feel bad just not being your best or not being able to host a space, not being able to play with them. And I think it gets too much at some point. It's just overwhelming. And again, there are people who can do it and people who do it well, and by all means, keep going. You're probably not watching this if you are doing well. Maybe you are doing well and you're contemplating things. I don't know. Yeah, that was the big thing, the codependency. I didn't realize how how strong it was in streaming and the negative repercussions of that, but it's nice to be able to see it at least and to know that's something I don't want to engage with, because honestly that can exist on YouTube as well, where like some YouTubers call their viewers family, and I mean I appreciate y'all, but I don't want to ever contribute to that. I don't want to foster this fake narrative where I love you and everything is, I don't know. Again, like this is super I'm talking hypothetically, because I see my viewers, or I guess our Everbloom community, as peers, we're acquaintances, we are aware of each other's existence and respect that. And I think that part's really cool. Gosh, I remember too the follow for follow communities, Team Emmmsie or Twitch Kittens. I was a part of Twitch Kittens, actually. It was cool because it kind of gave guidance, and, you know, networking is a big thing in streaming. I don't know, the more people you know, the better it helps, because then you follow each other, you can help each other, you know, hit your goals. But I don't know, a lot of it was fake, and honestly, follow for follow doesn't work really well. What works is investing in yourself and, like, investing in your brand. Streaming also robbed the ability to have fun playing games for a while, because there's a lot of pressure to like market yourself and market everything. When a new game comes out, you're like, oh, I want to play that, but then you're like, no, I should save it for stream so I can capitalize on it. And then sometimes feeling guilty of doing something but not taking a picture of it, or not doing it live, and therefore losing out on views or people subbing or donating or whatever, tipping and watching. It just made it very difficult to just enjoy myself. It was very hard to just play and to be. I feel like that's the biggest lesson I'm trying to learn. Just to be myself, and to be and to accept myself, to be fine with who I am and to accept my imperfections. And it's very difficult to do that when you're in the mindset of like trying to grow a stream and trying to be big and trying to make it. Because I mean, success is relative. You could be successful with 20 viewers and you could be successful with thousands. It's hard not to compare yourself sometimes, especially if people are younger than you or people are like way more successful in a shorter time span. Because I know the root of why we should stream, or why we usually start it, is because we have fun. But then sometimes with the pressure of just trying to grow, that joy slowly gets robbed and slowly gets diminished. And it's hard not to be conscious of your viewer numbers or to be conscious of your sub count. All in all, the biggest reason I wanted to record this was because I wanted to say my piece about streaming. I've learned so much this year, and I feel like I'm so much happier without streaming. I still have a lot of shit. I still have the same shit I'm still dealing with of like trying to be healthy and trying to like be mindful of other things at school and careers and stuff. I deactivated my Instagram, I deleted Twitter, and I just stopped caring as much, or I'm trying to stop. Like, I still care, but I don't want to like be glued to that. Very detrimental to myself. So far so good. My best memories for streaming these past 4 years. Oh my gosh. Okay, because streaming isn't all shit, okay? Like, it's actually pretty fun and cool, but you gotta do it really healthily and carefully. I highly suggest, if you can do therapy, do it while you can, or just do it in general. But also just be mindful, streaming isn't just going live and that's it. If you actually are like trying to grow and build a community, etc., there's just so many nuances. I made a shit ton of videos about it already. This will be the last one, I hope. Like, I don't want to talk about it again because there's so much that can be said about it. But yeah, as an ex-small streamer, my best memories, the first one I remember vividly is my first 12-hour stream. It was really fun because I played like this adventure game, Duck something. My community stayed with me in chat for a long time, and we had so much fun, and I was just laughing about different things, and it was chill. I really appreciated that. That was really fun. Some jackbox streams were really cool too. One time we all died in the first round. It was pretty cool to get raided by lilchiipmunk. I mean, I look back and I'm just kind of like honored, but also just, I'm like, why did you do that? I wish I could ask her. I mean, I can, but there's not too much point, but I was really grateful for that. And then also a lot of other of my peers, and when I say peers, I mean like other people who followed me back and who were super kind to me, who rated me as well and shared their communities. Yeah, it was really awesome. Like, I appreciated getting to know so many people and, you know, having cool conversations and having a lot of in-depth conversations as well. It was very, very neat. I appreciated that. I'm grateful that I still have like a cool community of people who found me via streaming, and I don't know, we're just nice to each other and growing. My worst memories. Where to begin? Yeah, that voice call mental health thing was crap. Never again. That was awful. I just felt bad because they were talking about like being violent, and I was trying to convince them to not do that, and I felt so shitty. One of the worst memories. A lot of the worst memories come from Jackbox. Oh, and the Minecraft thing. It was really sad when the person like hacked my server and I was just so stressed. I wanted to just have fun and chill, so that was annoying. And the Jackbox thing, people just spam really shitty words, especially with text-to-speech, and any regrets. I guess I regret not having stronger boundaries in the beginning. I'm not mad and I don't regret in the way where I'm like beating myself up for it, but I do wish I was stronger about that and knew how to set boundaries and how to not feel bad. I also regret kind of learning about marketing and stuff. I mean, in a way, it's kind of helped me be like conscientious, and you know, it's giving me a beautiful moral compass to navigate the future with. However, I miss just streaming for fun and not caring as much. There's something about that innocence. It's just so beautiful. I feel like now it's kind of hard to do that anyway, because it's hard not to feel bad about like a dead chat or just low viewer numbers, especially in comparison to other people. Numbers, it's just so hard not to compare, at least for me. It's very difficult. My advice for others, don't do what I did. I mean, have boundaries. Try to figure out why you're streaming. If you're really doing it for fun, don't look at the viewer number if it hurts you. Try to understand there's a difference between like having fun with streaming and doing it as a hobby versus growing it substantially. And there's just certain choices I think that have to be made. It's just different. It's a different climate in my opinion. I will also say if you're thinking about quitting and you don't want to do it anymore, it's also been years for you, I'd hope that you wouldn't feel guilty, because I dealt with that for a while and it kind of it was eating me inside in a way. Like it made me feel really bad, and I don't think that you should feel bad for not wanting to do something that doesn't bring you happiness. You know, does it spark joy for you? If not, on one hand, you want to try, you want to give it your best shot. Maybe you are the next ninja or whatever, and you know, maybe it is your calling. I don't know. But at the same time, we look down upon people who stop because if they couldn't make it, they couldn't handle it, or they couldn't endure. There's different situations, so it's hard to say which one is more accurate and which one isn't. But I almost see it as similar to just an emotionally abusive relationship. I say that very lightly because I've been in them and it's never to the same extent. But I'm using that as an example because to me, you feel guilty for leaving, especially if you're in it and you don't see like how toxic it is. But then if you're out of it and you do see how toxic it is, you can understand that, oh, leaving it actually might be in your best interest because it's genuinely making you miserable. I invite people to be honest with themselves, to understand what their needs are, what their needs from streaming are, if it fits within your lifestyle and what you want. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give. Another thing I will say is you don't have to spend a lot of money on streaming equipment. I know it's hard because the bar has been set so high for people to succeed in terms of like lighting and everything. Firstly, you can get a lot of cheap, really good stuff. There's a lot of tricks out there, a lot of good advice channels. I'm sure you know what they are. But also, I remember I spent a lot for custom animated alerts, which I am really happy with them. They were beautiful. Were they worth the price? I don't know. Yes, they were, and the quality, but in the end, I still had the same amount of viewers. The amount of camera equipment, DSLR, lighting, and fancy alerts are not going to get you any further success. Honestly, they don't really matter that much. You can have something simple as fudge. It just depends on you and your marketing and your brand and everything. I say that like kind of annoyed because I don't know, I guess I kind of regret spending so much on that. I mean, all in all, it was a learning experience and I'm still using a lot of the skills that I've retained. The stuff I'm still using as well in some capacity, but I didn't realize how unimportant that stuff really is. Because you could have just shitty webcam and a decent mic and that's fine. People will watch what they want to watch. It's easy for that stuff to add up too. All in all, I appreciated my time streaming. I started when I was 22. I am now 26. But before I end 2020, and maybe you watch this in 2021, I don't know. But I wanted to kind of close this chapter once and for all. Because it's been a really long time. It's been a hell of a long time coming. I've talked a lot about just tips regarding streaming before, and I just wanted to be honest about my experience and what I've learned and my observations, because I don't think they're talked about enough. streaming is great, and I think that some people genuinely are good at it. I think we all struggle to some capacity, but if you are also feeling like how I was feeling, just kind of like burned out and over it in a way, and you're still feeling guilty, I empathize. I hope you're able to find peace and clarity, and if you're still streaming and trying to figure out how you're going to navigate through it, I also hope you find clarity and happiness in doing that. Our life is pretty short, so you just gotta decide what you want to do and if it's worth your time. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I invite you to compare and contrast, look at the different sides, and make a decision. Try to figure out what makes you happy. So thanks for sitting with me through the first podcast ever. I'm excited to make more. I have a lot more things to talk about. Thanks Twitch for all the memories. Thank you to all the people who supported me and who are still supporting me and who follow me along. There's a lot of really cool people out there and a lot of great streamers. And of course, streamers are human beings, so please be kind and realize that you're also human too, so it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to want to quit and to actually quit. Please don't feel guilty for stopping something that doesn't make you happy anymore. If you want to keep trying, by all means, just do you. Thanks for listening to Justaposition, episode 1, streaming. Janine, ouch. I don't know how to end these, but